A young girl named Maureen Cartwright gets out of the car and opens the gate of an old house, the house of his deceased twin brother, Louis. Followed by another girl named Laura, Louis' girlfriend when he was alive, who gives the house key to Maureen. Maureen had a promise with Louis that should one of them die first, the deceased will visit the other one and have a way to connect from the afterlife. Laura decides not to stay there because she has too many memories left, so Maureen lives there alone. At night, Maureen goes to check the surroundings of the very dark house. Because she feels there is something strange, she calls the name of her dead brother, Louis. Unexpectedly, there is a white shadow right behind her and she asks if it is Louis. The shadow immediately disappears when Maureen turns her body around to check. The next day, Laura comes to see Maureen. Maureen accidentally falls asleep on the sofa and says that she senses something strange in the house. She also points out and questions the existence of a cross-shaped scratch on the wall near the stairs. After that, they go to the cafe. There, they meet a couple who speak French, Cassandra and Jerome, who are planning on buying Louis' house. Laura tells them about Maureen living there, so they both hesitate to buy the house. Then Maureen comes and tells them how difficult it is to find the gate to the spiritual world. Hearing that, Cassandra says that she sees an artist at the Modern Art Museum called Hilma A.F. Clint who creates abstract art that relates to the spiritual world. Knowing this, Maureen checks on the internet and finds a lot of abstract pictures there. She also finds information that the drawings were made by a female artist from Sweden in the early 1900s, which has a special meaning in each pattern for the future, and that future is now. After that, Maureen shops clothes, accessories, bags, and belts for her client, a celebrity named Kyra Gelman. When she arrives at her client's house, she packs up the things that she has bought earlier and receives a letter from Kyra containing her departure for Milan and an envelope for the wages. In the evening, when she arrives at her house, Maureen continues his research on Hilma A.F. Clint. Maureen looks into videos that tell about abstract photos and the meaning behind them. Suddenly, her boyfriend named Gary calls and they talk about one another's whereabouts and respective activities. The next day, Maureen goes back to work, buying clothes for Kyra. A shop salesman tells Maureen to try on the clothes she chose for Kyra because he knows that Maureen wants them. Maureen decides to wear the shoes and tells him not to tell Kyra about it. After that, Maureen asks a doctor to examine her heart. The doctor also examined Louis when her past brother had heart disease. Maureen is worried as she has the same symptoms as Louis used to. However, the doctor says that she is fine, just that she needs to avoid strenuous physical activity. Having completed her checkup, Maureen goes to Kyra's house to drop the purchases. However, there is a man named Victor Ingo. He says that Kyra is in her room on an important call with her lawyer. Maureen opens Kyra's room and sure enough, she looks so busy that Maureen can't speak a word to Kyra, making her have to wait in the living room. There, Ingo shares that he is actually a reporter for Vogue magazine and also Kyra's boyfriend. Ingo says that he will be dumped by Kyra because Kyra is afraid that her husband will find out about their relationship. After that, Ingo asks Maureen what she is doing in Paris. Maureen says that she is waiting for a sign from her brother, Louis, who has died of a heart attack. Curious, Ingo asks how to find out the sign. Maureen replies that she and Louis have always been spiritual intermediaries who have a feeling or sensitivity to the existence of spirits who want to communicate in any form. And once Maureen finds the mark, she will live her life normally once more. Arriving home at night, Maureen suddenly hears the sound of running water from the faucet. She waits for Louis to show some sign through the faucet, but there is no sign. In the other bathroom upstairs, she hears the sound of running water again, louder than before. Then, she turns off the faucet and says that she wants to see something more convincing from Louis. However, there is still no reaction and this makes Maureen stressed that she is finally upset and orders Louis's spirit to speak directly to her. Immediately, she hears the sound of something falling very hard which makes her very shocked. Because she is scared, she claims that it isn't her brother. Then, Maureen notices that there is another cross-scratch mark on the table. Then behind her, a white shadow follows her and bothers her, making her very scared. The white shadow briefly reveals itself in the form of a woman who is vomiting and then disappears. Because of this incident, Maureen runs away from the house. The next day, while she is at the train station bound for London, she gets a message from an unknown person. The unknown texter keeps texting her like it knows everything about Maureen. As she becomes more annoyed, she asks who it is, whether it is Lewis or not. After that, she turns airplane mode on her phone and bursts into tears. When Maureen reactivates her cell phone, the unknown texter keeps texting her saying that it is there and is watching her. It makes Maureen check her surroundings and become frightened. Arriving in London, as usual, Maureen is shopping for clothes for Kyra. However, the texter messages again and says that it wants to play a game. Not minding it, she returns home to Paris while chatting with the texter until she finally falls asleep. Maureen wakes up again from her sleep and they continue texting, as she feels like she is texting with Lewis. Maureen shares that she tries on her client's shoes, which she shouldn't have. The texter encourages her to do more than that and Maureen is enticed. Arriving in Paris once more, Maureen goes to Kyra's house to put on the clothes she has bought while continuing texting with the texter. While relaxing, Maureen opens Kyra's laptop and searches for Kyra Gelman during Fashion Week in Milan. She sees the dress and bag she bought the other day worn by Kyra. Since she likes her from the start, she tries it, and then she sleeps on Kyra's bed while touching herself as if she wants to be Kyra. When she falls asleep, suddenly a glimpse of the white shadow appears above her, waking Maureen up startled as she feels the presence. The next day, Maureen receives a letter containing a hotel room card in her locker, and is confused by it. Maureen visits Lara and tells her that she sees a white shadow float by. According to her, the shadow looks very angry and so evil. Not wanting any of it, Lara says that she loves Lewis very much but she can't spend her life mourning him all the time. Lara wants a new life. Lara also tells her that Jerome and Cassandra are going to buy the house. Hearing this, Maureen agrees and says that Lewis will be pleased too. While Lara is carving wood, Maureen asks about Victor Hugo, who can communicate with spirits. Lara explains that he can do it using the ritual table. The table will give a sign by tapping the floor, once for yes and twice for no. The spirit speaks through the Ouija board and letters. But Maureen doesn't believe it. Lara agrees and says that it is a lie because there has been no worldwide publication about it. Lara also says that if Maureen's interested, there's a movie on TV from the 60s that describes the ritual. On the way, Maureen watches the film about Victor Hugo that Lara mentioned. Within the movie, 4 people led by Victor Hugo put their hands on the table and he asks a question. The table taps the floor 1 time, meaning that the spirit is answering yes. When she gets home, Maureen puts on Kyra's white dress and takes the hotel card that she mysteriously received, and leaves. After arriving at the hotel room, she receives another text from the texter. It asks Maureen to send him a photo of herself. Still feeling that it is Lewis she's texting, she sends it and the texter likes her in the white dress. After that, Maureen goes to the hotel receptionist and asks who booked the room she's in. Maureen is surprised because the room is in her name and she doesn't know who pays for the room for her. Then, she goes shopping at a jewelry store. After shopping, she heads to Kyra's house to deliver her purchases. However, the house looks dark and quiet. When she opens Kyra's room door, she is surprised because there are so many bloodstains on the mattress and carpet. As she looks more carefully, she finds Kyra already dead, covered in blood. Surprised, Maureen becomes speechless in confusion. Then, she hears a very clear voice in a room near Kyra's room and there is a large black shadow passing by. Out of fear, Maureen runs away from there and reports the incident to the police station. There, she explains to the officer about Kyra's death. Nervously, she confesses that she was so scared that she didn't call the police right away. Maureen also explains to the officer that she was Kyra's personal shopper and that she often visits her room to drop her purchases. The officer suspects her when Maureen uses Kyra's laptop and sleeps in Kyra's bed the other day. Suspecting Maureen of murder and robbery, the officer then asks Maureen about the jewelry that she has bought for Kyra yesterday, and she claims that it is still in Kyra's room. When she is finished, Maureen goes home using her motorbike and receives another text from the texter. It knows that Maureen has reported the case to the police station. Arriving home, she FaceTimes her boyfriend, Gary. Maureen says her relationship with Louis is currently not going well. Gary doesn't believe the afterlife exists and encourages her to stop and come back to him. With a sense of panic, she also tells him about Kyra's very gruesome death. After finishing FaceTime, Maureen finds a red packaging containing the luxurious jewelry she bought yesterday for Kyra under the table. Maureen is in shock as she was sure that she had dropped it in Kyra's room. In addition, she also receives consecutive text messages from the texter from about an hour ago. The texter tells her to go to Crown Plaza, room 329 as soon as possible. Because Maureen doesn't reply to the text quickly, the texter says that it has been in front of her room, which scares Maureen even more. Very carefully, Maureen peeks through the peephole and finds a piece of paper from under her bedroom door which contains the earlier order, telling her to go to the designated place. Since Maureen doesn't want to be constantly terrorized, she replaces her cell phone number with a new one and throws away the old card. Then with quick steps, Maureen walks back to her hotel room. Strangely, she sees her room door open and close by itself. Then in the hotel hallway, the elevator door also opens and closes on its own as if someone is there. The invisible figure continues its way to the main lobby and leaves the hotel. In the evening, Maureen goes to meet Lara at the restaurant. Lara offers her to stay at her house and Maureen gladly accepts because she is afraid to be alone lately. The next morning, Maureen sees a man in the backyard and becomes acquainted with him. The man's name is Erwin, Lara's new boyfriend. Erwin feels bad for Maureen because Louis' house is sold already and she has nowhere to live. However, she doesn't feel disappointed at all. Erwin tells his thoughts about the dead watching over the living. Louis also tells him that Maureen has the same spiritual abilities as him, but Maureen doesn't feel that way. Erwin claims that he can feel Louis's presence there, because he feels guilty for Louis for being with her ex-girlfriend, Lara. Before leaving, Erwin advises her to release Louis' spirit and start a normal life. When she is alone, behind her is a clear vision of Louis in the form of a human and a glass that floats. Louis drops the glass and it shatters. Maureen clears it up and tells Lara it is probably because Erwin has put his glass on the edge of the table. In the end, Maureen arrives in Oman to live with Gary. She hears something in the house and sees the glass float by itself, before falling and shattering once more. Maureen asks whether Louis is there and a table tap is heard once for yes. While fighting her fear, Maureen keeps in touch with it and finally, she concludes for herself that it isn't Louis. When she asks if it is just her hallucination, the table stomps once more to signal another yes. Subscribe to watch more videos like this and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.